Timeline Show, episode 40. We're back. 40, Luke. Episode 40. Milestone episode for the Star Wars Newsnet Timeline Show. We're going to wrap up some Young Jedi Adventures. We only have this episode and one more of Young Jedi Adventures, and then we're done with everything they put out for season 2, and we can get back into.
And hey, who knows? Maybe we'll
comics.
squeeze the 3 left back into one more. Maybe just one more. If we do 3 episodes in the next episode.
Oh no, that's what I meant. Like this
Who
one,
knows?
and then one more, and then boom, done.
I gotcha.
So I
There
did
we
do
go.
like some looking because I haven't watched any of these. It's for the first time. And Maz Kanata shows up in like the last episode of season 2, which I saw in the description. So now I'm really intrigued. I'm intrigued now. And so I'm ready to get to it. So we have Young Jedi Adventures this week. We're going to do episodes 7 and 8. Then we'll have 9, 10, 11 next week. And then we'll be back, I think, in some comics for a little while. Is that correct? We'll be back in some comics. And then in 2.5 weeks, if we're able to stick with the plan right now, will be some comics on February 1st. And then February 6th, on that Thursday, we have our interview with Kevin Scott, the author of The Rising Storm, who's coming on the Timeline Show to do a little talk about that book and the process of that novel. So I'm excited for the future of the Timeline Show. We have some fun things in store.
We have some really fun things, especially Kevin Scott being on the show. I mean, when was the last time Star Wars Newsnet had, I guess, like John Jackson Miller talking about, and you talking to Tessa Gratton. So, I mean, it's been, at that point, it's been almost over close to a year since we've had kind of a celebrity with the podcast in general. So it's going to be fun to get that back. I've never been in an experience like that, so it'll be my first time kind of in that space. So I hope that you lead us well and I don't make a fool of us. So I'm looking forward to it.
You're gonna be fine. You'll be fine. It's gonna be a good time. We're just talking Star Wars with Kevin. It's gonna be an awesome experience. I can't wait to pick his brain about Elzar Man. This is all I want. We'll talk about Elzar Man and Stellan Geos for 30 minutes.
And Sabra Rayun.
Yes, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. So that's in a few weeks. That's kind of the update here on the Timeline Show for the next few weeks. We hope to have some more authors come on to talk about some of these books in the future. I'll be sending some feelers out to some people to see who bites here in the future. I believe I need to look, but I'm hoping Charles Soule is at MegaCon in a couple weeks when you're down here.
Ooh.
So that way maybe we could talk to him about it.
That would be great.
We'll see. Because we've met before. So here we go. Episodes 7 and 8, Young Jedi Adventures. Are you ready?
We're ready. We are primed for this.
So part 1 is called Mine and Ours. And here we learn that people are more valuable than things, believe it or not. And while that might sound like a rather easy lesson to know, like, of course, people should be more valuable than things. How often do we prioritize objects, material goods, material things over the people in our lives? And this is a great example in this episode of how twisted that is, but how simplistic it is to just reframe our way of thinking. And Prince Cyrus, aka Tabor, was in this episode, and how fitting was it for him to be the one to really learn this lesson as his character growth continues here.
This was perfect for Cyrus Vundir. You know what was a little bit interesting, kind of a tangent, like we really didn't get his other side of Tabor, did not really physically come out in this episode. It really wasn't hinted at too hard either. It's just the fact that, like, he's a rich kid, kind of, he likes his materialistic things, and that's really all there was to the character in this episode. I'm not saying that is a bad thing. It's just like, it's kind of interesting to have a Prince Cyrus episode post episode reveal that he is Tabor, and it doesn't really touch on the fact that he's Tabor. Kind of interesting.
We haven't had that yet. The times where Prince Cyrus has been around has been when Tabor would also make his appearance. We have yet to have one where Prince Cyrus put away the Tabor helmet for the entire episode just to focus in and just be himself, so to speak. So that was interesting as well. So another guest star on this episode of Young Jedi Adventures, Princess Anaya, fan
Hey,
favorite,
yeah.
character friend of the pod here, Princess Anaya was on, and I love Princess Anaya. I think that she's my favorite recurring character of all of them. Outside of Tabor, Prince Cyrus, I think doesn't count because he's in so many episodes. So I'm gonna go with I think Princess Anaya is my favorite of the friends that shows up every once in a while.
That's a really good choice. She's really cool. She's got her head on straight. She is royalty. She loves to build things. She's a good friend. She's a perfect choice for who you want to have around. I want to be
Mhm.
friends with this character too. Okay.
Of course. And they had like the teaming up of the Avengers, basically,
They
of
did.
friends of the younglings, because you have Prince Cyrus, yeah, Princess Anaya. We had Ava from we're on Utu Prime, which is the mine episode where Raxlo was trying to
Oh
steal
my
from
gosh.
them
He
last
should have
season.
been
Which
in this.
where is Raxlo? We haven't seen him at all in
Not in
this
season two at
season.
all. Maybe he learned
I
his lesson.
that's what I'm afraid of.
I'm
I
afraid.
I I need him to have a relapse so we can get another Raxo episode because my guy is completely MIA right now, and I kind of need him to cause some shenanigans here before it's too late, or I'm gonna be a little bit frustrated with season two. So the thing about the Utu Prime people and Ava, how would you describe them? To me, they look like walking turtles, kind of,
That's
with
kind
like
of close. I can see it. I would say
with a
like
few bird-like
sloth.
features, maybe.
Yeah.
Sloths, that's yes,
Sloths are a
walking
little closer.
turtle sloth. They have some
Yeah.
sort of shell exterior on their backs, I
Yeah.
think.
I think
So
so
maybe
too.
some sloth turtles would be a good way of describing them to some degree.
They're interesting people.
So what did you think about Prince Cyrus's fit? So on Utu
Mm.
Prime, they're known for their gems, they're known for their shiny objects. So when they host a party like this, they have every single person wear their shiniest gems or their shiniest stones. And Prince Cyrus came, he's got the brooch right there on his chest, the big one. He even has shining glitter glimmering things in his hair, on his skin, on his cloak, on his cape, like everything in his outfit is shining. And you have Princess Naya, who is sporting a modest look, but does have the epic tiara on top. But I thought it was interesting just the contrast between the two, where Princess Naya is much more grounded. And so she's participating in the event by, she's royalty. She's expected to wear something. So she has this tiara with a very pronounced jewel. But other than that, it's a mostly tamed down outfit. Well, Cyrus says, "Look at me. I have arrived."
And wow, did that feel like on brand? I kind of liked that, like, they took the character designs up a level because this is supposed to be a very elegant,
Mhm.
very fashionable event. So, like, Cyrus looks, he's usually dressed very well because he's royalty, but now he's glittering. Now he's wearing special clothes that we haven't seen before. Same with Anaya.
Yes.
I really liked that, like, she had like eyeshadow on. She had like a different look going on. So I
Mhm.
I loved it. And I love the fact that, like, just Anaya's got her head on straight. She, like, from the
Mhm.
get-go, the very first instant that there's a crossroads, she's like, I know which one to go with. Like, it's
Mhm.
obviously people over things.
Mhm.
I just
Well,
love how
the
simple it can
crossroads
be.
happens too when Ava basically tells them, "Do not take gems from the mines when you go explore." So of course, Prince Cyrus sees the big giant shiny gemstone over there and wants to take it, takes it, even though he's not supposed to, and releases a horde of armored amberflies into the mine. Which, for those of you who are unfamiliar with the armored amberfly, just know essentially what you have here are the locusts of stones, where they just fly around going to the different shiniest gemstones and just sucking them dry of any luster and shine they have left, so to speak. And they're just going to get all the amber out of them. And yeah, these things are disgustingly, horrifyingly giant locust scorpions flying through the air. I do not want anything to do with them. And they wreaked havoc on the part that was there to unveil the new middle gemstone thing that they had inside.
Yeah. It's not only that they're like, ruining the crystal's shine and stuff. It's the fact that these armored, sorry, it's armored amber beetles.
Amber
What are they?
flies.
Amber
Amber
flies.
flies.
Man, they're like eating the
Beetles.
crystals.
Come on. They're
They're
eating the
eating them
crystal.
and
They're
destroying
like
them.
this way.
Like
They're like the giant locusts.
that's crazy. There is not to go off on too much of a tangent here, but there's a book called Heir to the Jedi, which was supposed to be Legends. It barely made it into the canon part of like Star Wars Disney time. It's a very odd book. I listened to the audiobook and there's these creatures that will like bore into your skull and like eat your brain out. And it kind of reminded me of like the insect type of like horror that like I had to experience a couple months ago when I read that book, not knowing that that was going to be part of it. So had a bit of flashbacks watching these things come out of the wall and like try to like destroy stuff. I was like, oh,
You're sitting there in the car
I'm not
driving to
vibing
work
with
listening
these.
to a Star Wars audiobook, and then you're hearing, and then the amberflies came out into their brains and ate them up and spat them back out again, and they died. That's disgusting. Okay, so Cyrus and Naya have a little bit of a bonding this episode because Cyrus does kind of turn a page and
Yes.
appreciates people and helps, even he sacrifices the gemstone he found and some of his other objects in order to protect the people at the party, his friends, and the greater good, so to speak. So there seems to be another episode here of him turning the page. I think we're going to get the full Tabor Cyrus transformation before this half of the season ends. I don't know for sure, but I think in the
Oh,
next couple of seasons, we're going to get the reveal to the Jedi friends. There's going to be that moment where of no return for him, so to speak. I don't know if he's going to choose to do that willingly or if another party is going to reveal him, involuntarily, but I think we're going to get to that point before we reach the end of this half season, and then who knows, when the next 10, 11 episodes drop for season 2.
that's, I don't know. I feel like that's a little bold. I don't think he's going to become fully only Cyrus before this 11 episode stretch is over. I feel like our friend Nate seems to think that there will be another drop of episodes for season 2. I don't know. I don't know
Mhm.
if
Well,
that's
he
the case.
said that he had been hearing, or they announced sometime early in 2025 they would announce something else for Young Jedi Adventures season, like Young Jedi
Okay.
Adventures. So that could
Okay.
mean tomorrow. That could mean February. I'm trying to remember when, obviously, the main flagship show of animation was Bad Batch for the last few years, and Young Jedi Adventures isn't even close on the level of Bad Batch in terms of
No, yeah. Wasn't designed to be.
importance, in terms of scale. It's much more.
Yeah.
But when they had said that they would give Bad Batch stuff early in the year, it was January, I think. Late January was when we got the trailer, which had Asajj Ventress and everything. So they don't have
Hmm.
anything Star Wars lined up right now until Celebration, where we're gonna get Andor. Probably the people who are there might get into that panel, might get like a sneak view of Andor season 2, and then that comes out right after. So I would imagine, not that they have to do something until then. If they were going to drop it, it would probably be around the same timeline. So probably sometime in the next 2 weeks, I would imagine they would announce something for Young Jedi Adventures season 2. If not, it's not as if this is something that they can't just drop anytime during the year and it'd be
I
completely fine.
know. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could even drop it. They dropped Tales of the Jedi at the same time Andor was going on. So, I mean, this is Young Jedi Adventures. I feel like they could literally just drop this anytime at all and
Mhm.
it's going to be fine. So, I think my prediction is that in this 11 episode batch of season 2, I don't think we're going to have the full turn. I think it's going to take one more
Mhm.
batch of
Okay.
episode story arc, but
One more Bad Batch, so to speak.
or maybe a good batch.
I guess that was like derogatory. I guess I was just trying to work in a Star Wars pun, but I guess that would be derogatory. But you're right. You're
Is there
right.
an echo in
We'll go for
here?
the good batch.
I'm Echo.
That's so good. Oh, I hate that episode. There's some things in Star Wars that are so bad they just have to be so good, and that's one of them. Is there an echo in here? Yes. What? I'm Echo.
I'm Echo.
So part 2 of this episode was the Andraven circuit. So we're
Mm,
back with another one of our friends, Mr. Gumar himself, the walking turtle, or sorry, walking elephant. These are like the
there we
elephant,
go.
walking elephant creatures.
He's
And
got to
this
be
is
a
where we
cousin to
learn
Neil.
he has to be. They have to be distantly related. Oh, I have some thoughts on. I had to stole something I had thought about. So we learn to trust ourselves and our instincts in this episodes because this episode's all
Mm.
about Gumar having to go through this circuit where he has to pass these challenges. It's this rite of passage, so to speak, similar to how like a Jedi would have to go to Ilum and get their kyber crystal and go through this little journey. They have this. The Andravens have this for their people where, or I guess they're called Andravens, but they have this for their people where they have to go through this little circuit, and he is wanting to accomplish this because every single one of his ancestors has gone through this and successfully, and he wants to be able to do that. And there's a lot of things that happen to him along the way in accomplishing this. But Luke, I did want to say one thing is in the episode. I'm going to skip to the notes before I even ask you your thought on the episode because you said something that triggered one of my notes, and it was something
Oh,
that our good friend Gumar said, which was that their ancestors came to Andraven and found a way to live on the planet. So that means that they are not native to Andraven always, that they arrived on Andraven, which opens up a whole network of possibilities, which was one of them was I was going to say, could evolution, could Neil's people and the Adraven, could they be the same species, but, have evolved differently because they existed on different parts of the galaxy? Because the Andravens had to adapt to more of a cold climate. But then it makes me wonder, why would you go if you're searching the galaxy for a place to settle, maybe? Why would you stop on essentially Hoth and say, you know what? This is our home. This sounds great. Nothing about this planet seems appealing in any way, shape, or form. So why would they have done that?
now that's a great question, but I feel like Draven is not the. It's far from the only place that you'd have to ask that of the people that live there. We have to look at like Tatooine,
Hmm.
Pisana. There's many other places that have very harsh conditions. Even maybe a planet like Parnassus. Anyways, um,
How long is that
I
book?
this is the paperback version, and it's
That's a thick book
457. It's a thicker book. Um,
for
it's
Phasma.
it's it's a good.
We needed it.
I'm thinking
Okay.
I'm thinking I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5 stars, but 30
Whoa.
30
That's a
pages
whole
left.
nother. That's a whole nother pod.
I can't. The app that
Island
I
Ready
rated
is.
on, the app that I rated on, I can't do half stars. I think I'd maybe do 3.5.
Do you
But
what? So you rate
there's
every
like
book? Do you write a little review for all your books that you read?
like a couple sentences. Sure. Give it
Okay. I like that.
goodreads.com. Anyways,
Oh, Goodreads, yes, of course.
Andraven, not a place I would have stopped and set up shop. Gotta say, not I
Right.
wouldn't have done it.
Right.
But all respect to those who are strong enough to do it. I like this little ritual, and I like the lesson of the episode. I related to this one more than I thought I would because I'm someone who likes to rely on other things to kind of set my schedule. Like I like to see that there is a proven way to do something, and I'll do it that way. Relying
Mhm.
on my instincts, I'm not quick to do it. I got to admit. So I've tried to work on myself like that. So I like to see that Gumar goes through this same struggle. I like that there's something to be said about thinking for yourself. Use your brain. That's what I often try
Mhm.
to tell my nephew. Like we got to use that brain. We got to think. Ask yourself questions. Let's do this. We can do hard
Use your
things.
brain. Use
Yes.
it. You have a brain. Think through critically. Do not ask me what to do on the assignment. And when I ask you if you attempted to read the instructions and you say no, what are we doing here? Okay, sorry. That was for a different. Sorry, I thought we were talking about teaching for a moment, not Andreven
I can tell
anymore.
that one
I
was
did.
charged with
I had.
something.
I oh, it was a long week. So my weeks right now are basketball practice in the mornings before school, And then we start games Monday, Wednesdays after school. And then Tuesdays and Thursdays, I have night class for grad school as well. And then we're doing the pods. I have to grade these papers. So I'm like Monday through Monday through Thursday, essentially what we're putting through here are like 12 to 15-hour days. And then Friday, I get through this day and I'm done. So last day of school this last week, it was just the last class of the day. I'm passing out our some worksheets, and then we're working on. We were talking through, just doing this little activity, and we got to this last part, and it's kind of the application process of it, where you kind of have to work on your own on this. We've done these different stations, we've done some hands-on things. Okay, this last part, you're gonna do this on your own. It was just the last time of the day. I had no patience left when my students just goes, Mr. Bradshaw, like, I don't know what we're supposed to do. And I said, how? Like, how? We've been doing this for all week. And I said, well, have you read the instructions there? And he goes, not really. And I said, well, critically thinking, should we maybe try? Because I am not someone that screams at kids if they're struggling with reading or anything. But this is one of those kids that just did not want to read the instructions, So he goes, kind of ready to go home though. And I said, and I'm not, you know what I mean? I said, how about this? You read the instructions. If you still are struggling with it after you read the instructions, I'll help you. And he basically read the instruction and goes, oh, I can do this. Yeah. Does the assignment. And then we keep going. I'm thinking to myself, I guarantee you next week, same thing's going to happen. Same thing's going to happen. Same thing. It's just like clockwork. That's what to do. Have you read the instructions? Have you, or because I have it on there too, I have an option online. They can listen to the instructions most of the time. So most of the time, yeah. So even have you read or listened to this? Not really. But let's start. Let's begin. Let's begin here. It's like point A. You know what I mean? So it never ceases to amaze me. Oh man. So Gumar here had read and listened to all the instructions. Thankfully, he had his data pad.
He was
full of everything that you needed. He is ready to go. But not everything that you have here in life can be written on a data pad. There's things that happen that are going to be unexpected. And I don't know. I love these type of lessons because it reminds me so much of sports, and you can have the perfect game plan. You can script for everything, but things are going to happen where you have to be able to radically change on the fly. That's when I get most proud of my players and my students, is when they encounter something unexpected, maybe in a lesson, an assignment, a game, a practice, and they're able to use what they've learned and apply it to succeed. And that's what Gumar essentially did throughout this episode. However, I did write here, I said, oh my goodness, I said, Gumar, put down the data pad. Stop saying data pad every 5 seconds. It's driving me insane.
He was relying on it so much, too much. And as we saw, I think what was kind of cool about it is he got his own like confirmation bias that like this is working perfectly, because the first 2 out of 3 lessons, things he has to accomplish and beat, the data pad is perfect for those situations. He reads it. Okay, I get this. I read it. Okay, the heating stone's here. Nice. Then he's like, okay, this is absolutely going to work for sure. I don't have to think. And man, does that go off the rails when the Robo-Wolf comes in. That was kind of an insane drop. That's just this crazy creature that hasn't been seen for generations is like, here it is. I also like when he said that at the beginning, he's like, oh yeah, by the way, there's this Robo-Wolf. We haven't seen it in generations, so you'll be fine. Zaba-Wolf.
Yeah, I knew we were going to get one. You knew we were going to get one. And it says that our ancestors used to ride them. I'm like, he's going to ride this bad boy back. It's going to be epic. And sure enough, he did. And he was able to use what he learned to create this flute in order to calm the Zaba-Wolf down so it wouldn't eat them. And then he ended up completing the circuit, making his father proud. showing his little brother an example. And honestly, he's probably like a freaking legend now in the Andreven camp, because he's the first one in, sounds like, hundreds of generations, maybe. I don't know how long the Andreven history goes, but they said since the first ancestors, they haven't seen Zappa. So he has to be kind of
I saw that and
running
went,
the place, right?
Lisa Al-Gaib.
Listen, Gaib. He's about to lead. He got back, and his dad said, What do you have next for us, Kumar?" And he goes, "Paradise."
Paradise.
Andravens, the Andravens are. What about the droid attack? What about the Andraven attack on the Wookiees?
Must travel south.
Oh man, have you been reading your Doom books, or are you
I'm
finishing up a few
reading.
Potter or Star Wars books first?
It's finishing Phasma today. Then I'm doing a nonfiction. Then it's Dune for me.
Okay, nice. Love that. I love that for you.
The
So,
book I got from Austin and Casey.
our good friends in the Force. So, part 1 of episode 8 is called The Great Gomgord, and we're back here learning about. I guess the lesson here is that good things can happen when it doesn't look like it. I mean, this one was kind of just a chill episode. There was nothing overly groundbreaking in this one in terms of Young Jedi Adventures episodes. The first two, I think, were were way more hard hitting, and then this one was a little bit more just chill. And then part 2 of this episode was a little bit more. But we did see it's Junkutu Day, and it's a great festival because we have holidays every day here on Tanu. And this one though is the one that Nubs looks forward to most because he gets the Gomgord pie. But there were no gum gourds for the feast this year. And they did one of those things where Nubs starts going, and then the camera like pans out. You see the birds flying away because he's screaming. And so Nubs seems like he would be willing to risk it all for some gum gourd pie. So my question for you, Luke, is what food item, whether it's any tradition, Thanksgiving, like a Christmas, I know you guys celebrate, we're celebrating Easter, but whatever it is that your family celebrates, is there a specific food item where if you were told that we're not going to have this year, you would have that moment where you're freaking out? And I think there's like a pie. I think it's pie because I think I've asked you a variation of this.
You've asked this before,
and you said something about, is it like pumpkin pie or something, where pecan pie, where if you don't have it, like you threw a fit when you were a kid, and so now every year that you have like your own pie.
It's even weirder and more niche, and it is green bean casserole.
Green bean casserole. That's right.
I don't know what kind of bug bit me, but that is just so good to me. And if it's not there, if my mom's green bean casserole is not going to be at the party, I'm not going. Okay.
You're like Nubs just screaming. It reminded me of, have you ever watched Seinfeld?
Yes.
Okay, so as the seasons go on, when George just becomes angrier and angrier and something happens and he's like, "Ah!" and it just kind of always just pans out, he's just screaming more and more.
They did that shot.
It reminded me of that so much. So basically these coop birds, these croup birds are taking these gomgords because that's their food, and they're taking them to the mountain, and they kind of discover that, oh, this is their food, and we kind of need to not take their food out of their habitat, and it's okay. We can eat the boba fruit, and that'll be just fine. Do you think Boba Fett is okay knowing that there's a sweet fruit named after him on Tanu, or that his name comes from the fruit on Tanu?
Because this is like
maybe
well
isn't
before
quite
he's born.
as maybe not quite as menacing.
I think it's called Bofa, Bofa.
Oh, it was Bofa. Never mind.
So that's a whole different insinuation there.
Boba was called Bofa when he was a kid. He changed it. He told Jango, "I am Boba. I'm not Bofa." That's what happened.
This is headcanon now.
This is headcanon. Remember old grandpa, the grandpa from this episode for
Man,
Donkuchi Day,
yes.
because there was the big quarrel. They're trying to get to the mountain. I'm not dissing old people here, but I'm going to. I'm
But
not.
I'm
I'm
going
not.
to.
I'm not. But I'm going to. So not yet, but it's about to happen. So they're trying to get to the mountain to save Nubs and his granddaughter as quickly as possible because the mountain's dangerous, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's essentially what's happening. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Okay. So Kai, Liz, Dad, they're all ready to go. Why does Grandpa come along? He is a walker. And he's gonna walk up the mountain. Every time I see him take off running, and the way the animation goes, and he's like waddling back and forth like really fast. And I'm thinking they could have died just because Grandpa's ego wouldn't allow him to stay behind and let them go forward because they got to take him up the mountain too. And I'm just thinking to myself, you know what? How many old people are there that, sometimes what is it? The sun will set on my time here and rise with you as the new king.
Is that from Lion King?
That's Lion King. Yeah.
I was gonna say we actually just watched that Thursday.
Have you never
Um,
seen Lion King before?
I have seen it probably only once as a child. It's probably been 20 years
Uh,
since I've seen Lion King.
so
Anyways,
I've probably seen Lion King more than any movie ever. Like more like I
I
would say I'm not sure how many times I've watched certain movies, of course, but I would say I've probably watched Lion King the most, Phantom Menace
yeah, I
second
was gonna say
most.
that's got to be second.
That's probably the movies I've watched the most in my life.
I probably could have guessed that too because we've talked about Lion King before and how it's like you burned that one.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
But a little bit of ageism coming out here with Grandpa. Grandpa, he maybe should have stayed back. Okay, he's not exactly like ripped. He's not fast. Like it's okay to sit that one out. He can be the philosophical leader of the company or the community.
Why couldn't he
He doesn't need to be
stay
there.
why couldn't he stay back with Wes and get the bofa fruit ready to go for the feast instead?
Also,
He's
are we
going on this
noticing
journey.
Wes?
Where is
What's
he?
going on? Yeah, like
Is Wes Here's the thing, does Wes have a thing against creatures? Because he's gone to help Kai and Liz before. Nubs is in danger, doesn't help Nubs.
I think there's something there.
There's something dirty going on. We need to get to the bottom of this. What's going on, Master Zia? What is going on? It's part 2. Last one. A sticky situation. This is where Kai faces his fears. This is about being able to face your fear, overcome it, power through. A great one because he is afraid of spiders. And we have these giant spiders in this that are quite creepy, actually, these spiders. And one of them, the Spider King, that is how big would he's basically the size of like Shelob from Lord of the
Lord of
Rings,
the Rings,
basically. He's
yes.
just a giant spider.
What is a Hagrid?
And
Ar-
that or Aragog
Aragog. Okay.
from the Chamber of Secrets, yes. Man,
Why couldn't it have been
rolling today.
butterflies?
Like spiders. Oh, Ron. Ron's such a weenie, dude. He peaks in the first book, and then he peaks as an 11-year-old or 12-year-old, I guess, is what he would have turned 12 at the time. But he peaks as an 11-year-old, and then he just declines every single year since.
That could never be my young Jedi.
But at the same time, we have to have the discussion of, did he peak, or is it just that incredible that a dweeb like Ron could land the number one girl in the school and Hermione? Like, how does that work? Do we count off points for Ron being basically terrible at everything? Or do we give him points for basically sucking, but also being able to, pull with Hermione?
I think the latter. I'm with the second option there. Like, yeah, you suck, but you got it where it counts. It's kind of like the Falcon. Anyways,
So Kai caught a snap right at the beginning of this episode, and you know who's back in this episode? It's your favorite droid, Luke. Is Ari is back with the Galactic
Ari!
Society of Creatures, and I have to ask you, Luke, you're paying dues. You're paying your monthly dues to be a part of this membership, right? And
And
Ari is
tipping.
the droid leader, right? You're one of the you're a monthly dues member. And I have to ask, are you going to bring this up at the next town hall meeting, like the next council meeting for the Galactic Society of Creatures? All it took for him to release every single spider on the ship was one push of a button. One push of a button. Kai accidentally hits one button, and every spider's cage door comes up and they're out. You're paying your dues. You'd think some of that money would go to security systems for the transportation of creatures.
I
Would
think
it
there's a
not?
severe need for reformation for this ship. It might need to just be retired and let's get a new ship, okay? Because I got a creature crawling all over me right now. Clearly this is not working because how many times this is the not the first time we've seen this ship fail to contain a very, like
Oh,
powerful
it's
creature
it's a
that needs
routine
contained.
thing every
Like
about 3 times a season, you get Ari's security protocols failing.
we need to get tighter restrictions on this ship, okay, Ari,
Mm.
or else the funding's being pulled and you're going to be over budget and behind schedule, much like
Director
our friend
critic.
in Andor. Yeah, director critic.
So the spiders took over the temple really fast. They get out, they're doing spider webs everywhere, and Kai basically creates this little ruse, this little scheme to get the Spider King away from the temple back into its cage, so that the rest of the spiders as well will follow, and they'll be able to send it back to where it's going to go build its home. And all jokes aside, it is one thing to be afraid of spiders, but then you're confronted with this giant spider, and Kai rises to the challenge, is even asked by Ari, hey, I'll take over at this point and help finish this up. And Kai goes, no, I started this. I'm going to finish this. And
Respect.
it's one of those moments where you can continue to see Kai growing up and putting on this, like, another layer of skill, another layer of lessons learned, of maturity that he's gaining as we go on, and displaying to the kids watching, another level of growth that they can hopefully apply to their lives too.
Maturity, even too. I thought that was great because, first of all, I will just out myself here. It's a little bit of a tangent. I'm like very afraid of spiders. Spiders are my number one thing that will get me to scream
Right.
and run. So this one did not love this episode, but they made the spiders look cute. I was kind of okay with it. Second of all, more to the point, we have an episode dealing with fear. And if you know anything about the High Republic, the reason this entire publishing initiative was created was to ask the question, what are the Jedi afraid of? What happens when you have insurmountable fear? I love that this episode kind of touched on that, maybe not purposefully because it's High Republic, but like it really fits into the theme of the High Republic that, like, what do you do with fear? What do you do with that when you're confronted with it, when it's overwhelming, when you are faced with a nameless creature that feeds on your fear? Who knows what could happen if a nameless creature were to be sent to Tanu?
What do you why are you trying to do that? I know that we read a book where, what book was it? It was one of it
Beware
was
the nameless.
Beware the Nameless, where there was one that was going to be sent to New.
Tanu.
But why would you even speak that into
Because
existence?
now I think our children are adequately prepared to face fear
Are
in
they?
even greater.
Are they?
They are perfectly suited for
Loden
this.
Greatstorm himself was not ready for the Nameless, and you're trying to throw Kylus and Nubs into the heart of the Nameless, of the Shrikarai.
As long as Nubs is there, they're fine.
Okay. All right. I'm cutting you off before you try to kill any more of the younglings that we have grown so fond of.
Call me
I did
Anakin the
love
way
that
I'm calling
Master
these young
Zia was
ones.
also afraid of the spiders. I did
She was
like
very
the Master
afraid.
Zia is also afraid of the creatures, and that was like a bonding moment between her and Kai.
I like that too. They're both quite afraid. Um, I'm kind of interested to know like if this show is going to culminate in these younglings becoming Padawans to masters because
Right.
I like the relationship Master Zia has with all three of them, but
Mhm.
it seems like there's something a little special with her and Kai oftentimes. So
Right.
it would be interesting to see maybe Wes it fails or does great and goes on, and then Zia's next apprentice would be Kai. I think that'd be cool.
That would be cool.
We
Or
also
one,
like
any one
we
of the three, really.
also like Belle and Kai. I know that that's a cool
That's
combo
that's
too.
the one
So
I'm hoping. That's the one I would love if they did
yeah,
something where Kai became Belle's apprentice. I just think that would be beautiful. That's what I would love. Anyway. All right. Another great episode of Young Jedi Adventures. Two great episodes of Young Jedi Adventures in the books. Another great episode of the Timeline Show in the books. Luke, as always, you are the master. I am the apprentice. For light and life, everyone, remember, we are all the Republic.